Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I had been asked to respond to this video entitled, quote, My Opinions on Veganism, unquote, by one called AlphaDestiny. And I figured that might be fun, so let's jump right into it.
In this video, I'm going to share my complete thoughts on veganism, everything from health to ethics. So firstly, I'd like to state that I'm fully supportive of the vegan movement. I think they are entirely correct when discussing the moral side of things. Animals are sentient beings who experience suffering.
They're entirely correct. Really? You don't ever sit there and question if maybe they're wrong about something? Really? That's a very bigoted position. Animals are sentient beings. And so, what does that mean?
And even on the question of health, we have a multitude of studies that demonstrate that reducing animal products could be beneficial.
We do? Where are they at? I guarantee you this kid hasn't read a single study. And yet he's so sure that what he says is correct. These studies don't exist. They just don't.
And in particular, a plant-based diet is the only diet that's been shown to actually reverse heart disease.
Really? When, where, and how? And if you disagree, or anybody listening to this, I don't fool myself thinking that this kid would. Well, bring the studies that you think say these things, not just the abstract, the entire study, not the abridged version, the entire goddamn study that you think says these things. We'll have a live hangout and we'll hash this shit out, right? Yeah? Yeah, I thought so. Continuing.
So I agree with them on both points that a plant-based diet, I agree that a plant-based diet is probably the best for the majority of the population, and we can drastically reduce suffering, environmental problems, political problems, and health problems as well.
Okay, well, that's just an opinion, an uninformed opinion, I would say. Just some basic vegan dogma repeated by a dogmatic person. I mean, you know, did he really investigate? Do you think he investigated these claims? I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir, so we won't drag this out too long. But again, if there are some of you who disagree, hey, you know where to find me. Bring it.
And for me personally, I do not consume any animal products at home. I don't buy any meat, any chicken, any fish, none of that stuff. I choose to purchase substitutions, fake meats. I like a lot of beans, tofu, tempeh, things of that nature.
Beans. I can't eat that shit, man. I just can't. Some of you probably do okay with that stuff. I don't.
So I don't own any. I don't consume dairy at all. I think dairy is a horrible thing to consume for most people. And I agree.
Dairy is a horrible thing to consume for most people. Well, apparently not Sardinians, seeing as those people, little quasi-vegan mascots propped up by the vegan movement, well, they consume roughly a quarter of their diet as dairy, and they live longer than anybody else on the planet. So how is dairy a horrible thing to consume? And me, somebody who consumes dairy on the daily, if the shit's so horrible, when am I gonna die?
That the vegan movement would benefit the world in a major, major way. We can argue that it is the future in a sense.
Okay, what's the argument? I hear a bunch of declarative statements and no arguments. Where's the argument? We can argue. I'd love to argue. But, well, all you're doing is spitting dogma because you're bigoted. You don't even allow yourself to ponder if you could potentially be wrong about any of this, even though you haven't done any research. None.
That said, I do have some minor disagreements regarding veganism. And I suppose my first would be...
Well, I guess that makes him unbiased, right? Right? Yeah.
The ethical side of eating animals. I agree that the industry is a corrupt, horrible, cruel thing, and no one in their right mind should support it. It is very, very bad what they do to these animals. I encourage you guys to watch the documentaries.
Documentaries. Okay.
And look what's going on behind the scenes, because it's truly disgusting. And if you're a human who's not cold in any type of way and you watch this stuff, you might feel quite disgusted, okay?
Okay. So, I guess we're getting to some standards now. I guess if something is disgusting, that means that it's wrong. Kind of vague and all, but, seeing as everything's subjective and up to me, let's say, and I'm not saying I believe this or don't, it really doesn't matter, but let's say I believe that gay sex is disgusting. I guess that makes it unethical, doesn't it? Well, isn't that what he's saying? Yeah, that's what he's saying.
So, I agree, the industry is a horrible thing, but the classic Old MacDonald had a farm, I don't think is the same situation. If we live...
Well, obviously it isn't. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
In a different world where people had a farm and they had animals and they treated very nicely and they raised them properly, gave them lots of love.
Okay, so if you care so much about the animals, why don't you have a farm? Huh? Why don't you do that? Wouldn't you actually be doing something then? Rather than not doing something and pretending like you actually are doing something by not doing something, choosing not to do something? Yeah, well.
You know, when you see the stereotypical farmer, Becky his cow, you know? When you have that type of situation, and the animal grows old and you end up eating it eventually, I think that's justified.
Oh God, this kid knows nothing about anything. Not on this topic. That's not how most farms operate. I don't care if they're family farms or factory farms. Nobody waits for an animal to get old so they can eat it, all right? That's not how this shit works. It does sometimes happen like that, but for other unrelated reasons, if you will, that I won't get into right now, but fuck, this kid is clueless.
Because it did not experience much suffering throughout its life. It lived a great life.
Oh, okay. So it's about not suffering and living a great life. Do all people on this planet live a great life devoid of suffering? Or should they? According to whom? By what standard? I mean, clearly, there are lots of people suffering. If the goal here is to eliminate suffering, and I think most reasonable people would agree that we are more important than animals, why are we first worrying about the animals not suffering and not people? You're trying to tell me you're ethical. I don't know by what standard or what system, but I bet even within your own ethical system, you would admit and agree that we should worry about people first. Seems like your priorities are ass backwards.
You know, that classic scenario, which I know doesn't really exist that much today, but...
Actually, this classic scenario, even though he does misrepresent it, that's how most of the world's meat is still produced. Okay? And all this BS factory farming, well, that's what's happening in your world, homie. Alright?
I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to eating animals. Okay? Likewise, if there is a wild animal trying to kill you, and you shoot it, you cook it, you eat it, I don't have an issue with that. And if there is an overpopulation issue, and you have two choices, either the animal is going to get hit by a truck, or you shoot it yourself and you eat it, well, I think the second option is much better.
Well, like I said, he prefers people. Overpopulation issue. What overpopulation? Human overpopulation? Overpopulation of animals? What are you talking about, kid? The only reason why animals are in our way is because we've encroached upon their environment, which it must be okay with you, seeing as I'm guessing you live in the city where that's exactly how it was built, encroaching upon nature, not living in harmony with it, right? Where people, well, invariably, inevitably end up running over these animals. So what overpopulation are we talking about here? You encroaching on the natural habitat of these animals? That's them overpopulating? Clearly, he is team people, right? Except he doesn't even fucking know it. I mean, you get this kid on live with me and, well, he's gonna walk into his own fucking punches, basically.
Right? We're not necessarily better, but it should be more justified in a sense.
We're not necessarily better. Okay, you need to make up your mind.
So those would be my only disagreements regarding the ethical side of things, but everything else, they're 100% correct. It is wrong. Animals are sentient beings. They experience suffering.
Criminals are sentient beings. They experience suffering. Should we not arrest people anymore? Should we let them out of prison? No, let's just consider non-violent crime where no sentient beings are hurt. Okay? So it's okay to let those people go. They shouldn't be in prison. They shouldn't be sentenced to whatever they're sentenced to, right? Because they're a sentient being. If what you're telling me, if the reason, the standard by which we determine how treating another being, whether it's ethical or not, right? If the standard is the fact that they're sentient, meaning we can't, do anything to them, essentially, without their will, well then, how do we even have a legal criminal system? How? Clearly, sentience is not the only variable that should be considered here, right? Obviously, he didn't actually sit down and think about what he was going to say. He's just possessed by an ideology and or catering to a crowd. That's what I see.
And the industry is a horrible, horrible thing, and I don't want to support it.
By what standard? I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm asking for a justification.
So I don't buy any animal products in this house. Now, in regards to the health question, again, I think there is enough data to suggest that reducing animal product consumption can be beneficial.
Where's the data? Where is it? Where is it? I say it doesn't exist. If you disagree, well, let's hash this out live, okay? Don't attack me in the comments. Bring the studies, and we'll talk about them.
Now, there are some people who are cholesterol deniers, saturated fat deniers.
Here we go with the newspeak. Saturated fat deniers. What does that mean? Are they saying cholesterol doesn't exist? Or are they perhaps studying cholesterol, learning new things about it, and letting us know how, well, we've been lied to, or how cholesterol's been unfairly demonized, right? Isn't that science? Isn't that how science is supposed to work? When you find out new things, you bring them to light, or you study these ideas, phenomena, things like cholesterol, in order to, well, understand it better, right? We have better equipment, apparatus, better methods. We're just better at studying, conducting science than ever before with each passing day. Should science just stop because animals are sentient? What is the rationale here? And speaking of saturated fat, plants contain saturated fat too. But this dumbass motherfucker doesn't know that.
I would say I used to be part of that group, but after looking at the research objectively...
Oh, God. You actually believe this kid read a single study? I guarantee you he did not read a single one. And even if he did, he wouldn't understand it. And I'm not saying that I would necessarily understand all of it, but that's why I'm actually making these statements, because, well, most people, not only do they not read the studies, they couldn't even understand what's being said, right? Of course. Because the high priests designed it to be so that they could remain high priests. It's always been this way, and it will forever remain thus. But, if you disagree, bring the studies, and we'll do our best. We'll look at them. Maybe we'll get an expert to come on, or a couple, and, we'll see what happens.
I think the vegans are correct that having an excess amount of this stuff is not really that.
Excess amount of cholesterol or saturated fat. Okay, what is that amount? If we figured it all out and the science is out there, give me a number. What is it? Because I know there's science out there that suggests that maybe not having enough of, quote unquote, this stuff is bad for your health too. But no, they want to paint cholesterol like it's some kind of poison, right? The more of it that you have, the worse it is for you, right? Like whatever the hell it is in peanuts that will kill some people, right? Most of us, if we eat enough peanuts, we're not going to feel all that great, okay? But there are some people, if they eat one or two, they could just die. But if they eat just a tiny, tiny piece of a peanut, they might feel like shit, but they'll get over it, right? But the more any of us eat of this stuff, I guarantee you, the worse you will feel. Whatever that threshold is for you, I don't know. And the same goes for nightshades. Some people can't handle more than a few tomatoes before they break out, or eggplant, or what have you, potatoes, right? Some people can eat them for a long, long time before there are any problems. But if you extract the essence of nightshade, like Game of Thrones, well, that shit will kill all of us, right? That's a toxin. It's dose dependent. The more of it you eat, the worse it is for you, right? So, what is that number? What is that quantity of cholesterol or saturated fat that will kill us? What is it? It doesn't exist, right? And if it's so toxic, right, it is, as you presented, a toxin, why does our body make it? Our body makes toxins? I'm not getting into the whole cholesterol talk because, again, I'm preaching to the fucking choir.
Good for your health. I know some people might give you some flack for this, but I think they're correct. And I really do believe that if people were to adopt a more plant-based lifestyle, they would experience numerous benefits.
I believe, right? Wait a minute, I thought the science was out there. Do you know? Or do you just believe? Which is it? I mean, on the one hand, he seems completely convinced. On the other hand, it's just his opinion, right? Some cognitive dissonance going on there. Why? Well, because he never read a single fucking study. He's lying through his fucking teeth and doesn't even know it.
And too many guys are consuming way too much animal products. They claim that they're having it in moderation, but they're eating it every single day.
What's too much? What is too much? And when is it going to kill me? Because I've been eating a pound of meat every day for the last 9 months or so, maybe. When am I going to die? When will the toxins destroy my body? When? Science! Because I say so. This guy can't define anything. He can't quantify anything. It's all just bro science. Nonsense.
In my eyes, you should not consume meat more than twice a week.
Based on what? He's quantifying stuff. Finally. All right. Well, according to what? Where did you get this from?
And I'm including all forms here, whether it be red meat, chicken, fish, any type. In my eyes, it should not be consumed more than twice a week.
Why the fuck should I give a fuck about your eyes? What's so special about your eyes? What?
If we're going to talk about weekly moderation here, okay? An even more extreme variation would be to have it once a month or once every couple months. That's what true moderation entails. But if you're having it several times per week or once every day, even if it's a small quantity, to me, that's not moderation. So yes, I agree on the health subject that reducing animal products is going to be very beneficial. Absolutely, especially things like dairy.
But if that's the case, why do Sardinians consume a quarter of their diet as dairy and they're the longest lived people on the planet? If meat is so bad, why are there countless people healing by eating meat? Why? How is that not science? He doesn't know anything about science. He's not investigating anything. He's just possessed by an ideology and he's spitting back the bullshit he was brainwashed with, acting like he's an expert of some kind.
I think dairy is a horrible, horrible thing to consume.
Based on what? And why? What are the mechanisms by which dairy destroys us? And once again, why are the fucking Sardinians so healthy? Why?
For the vast majority of the population. Now, I think there are exceptions here, depending on what type of milk you're receiving and your genetics. I know that guys have to be more Viking-ish, you 6'5" motherfuckers with blue eyes. I think they can handle the milk.
Well, I'm none of those things. And I drink milk, eat dairy every single day. When am I going to die? And why do I feel so fucking awesome consuming that toxic shit, even though I'm not a Viking? Huh? I guess that's a little bit too much science for this kid, man.
More easy than saying Asian dude, I'm just speaking on general averages here.
General averages. Oh, yeah, this guy reads scientific studies all the time. General averages. Fuck out of here.
So it depends on what you are. But overall, I think milk should be avoided for most people. It's very, very, very mucus forming.
Okay, how?
It causes a lot of problems in the throat, the lungs.
How and why?
We can even argue because the growth factors in milk that can accelerate tumor development.
He's talking about arguing, but all he does is make declarative statements. He doesn't hardly provide an argument. I'm not sure I heard a single argument yet It's just, this is the way it is because I say so, right? There are no arguments there. What are the arguments? I've been asking for them for the last, 20 minutes or so. So let's try to speed this.
Things of that nature. I'm just not a fan of milk and dairy, and I don't want to consume it ever again.
Yeah, good for you. Who gives a fuck?
Now, if it happens to be in some of my foods when I go out, then so be it. But I don't want it personally. And I drink all my coffee black.
Wait, so if it's in your food, it's okay, but you don't want it personally. Which is it? Like, this kid doesn't make any sense.
So I'm opposed to that, right? So yeah, right now you're seeing that I don't really have any disagreements whatsoever. I think they're entirely correct about the moral side of things and health side of things.
According to what moral standard? The subjective one that you created for yourself? That applies to everybody, even though you believe morality is subjective, meaning that what I think is ethical and moral is equally correct, right? Because the nature of morality is subjective, isn't it? Isn't it? And if it's not, then what is this objective moral standard, and how does that standard dictate that eating animals is unethical, right? All these declarative statements, zero arguments, zero logic.
And if most people were to adopt at least 80 to 90% plant-based, I think we would see like crazy improvements, right?
Oh yeah? According to what? This is such a fucking joke.
So I don't disagree. But my minor point of disagreement is with the elitism that exists, the cult-like mentality, and the inability to just be logical when...
He hasn't been logical yet. Nothing he's said so far has been logical. It's just all ideological. It's just, this is how I feel, so it must be right. That's not logical.
When talking about extreme moderation here. For example, if one is a vegan at home, 100% plant-based, like me, I don't consume any stuff, right? But that person decides to go out once a year, and he consumes a steak. Is that going to kill him? No, it won't. Sorry. Prove to me that that's going to kill him.
Oh, now he wants proof, right? He's asking for arguments, providing none.
Find me data that suggests that living a very active, healthy lifestyle of doing cardio on a consistent basis, eating plant-based 100% of the time year-round, but having a steak once a year is going to kill you. Find me that data. Now, in this case, people are going to pull up the ethical argument.
Find me the data that says that eating meat every day is going to kill you. Find me that data. I mean, the hypocrisy here is just cute. I mean, I happen to agree with him right here, right now, but he's still a goddamn hypocrite.
That you must be somehow a very bad person. Well, it's true that there are substitutes that exist.
No, there are no substitutes for meat. There are foods that they want you to think are a substitute for meat. But if you actually knew what the fuck is going on or what you're talking about, you would realize that those are not substitutes. Okay? How is... Whatever, man. Let's just keep it rolling.
And you can go to a vegan restaurant and you can get some great foods. I eat fake chicken all the time. It's fantastic.
Fake chicken all the time. It's fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
But I still don't think that one should feel bad if they decide to, say, consume a handful of nuts and there happens to be a bit of honey drizzled on top of it. Or you go eat at an Asian buffet and you find out they use one egg to make your meal. Should you feel bad? Are you a bad person for doing that? No, I don't think so. I don't think so whatsoever. Of course, you could have made a conscious decision not to indulge.
Wait a minute. So, the factory farm system that provides you with these eggs is unethical, but eating those eggs and supporting that factory farm system is not unethical. The kid is a walking fucking contradiction.
Using that behavior because maybe that would have been less suffering, quote unquote. But realistically...
Here comes the explanation. Let's hear it.
Even if we assess that, right? If we go to a restaurant, it's probably going to get thrown in the garbage anyway. So the deed has already been done. The animal's already dead. And it's either you consume it or it goes in the garbage.
Has he ever heard of supply and demand? Apparently not.
So we can argue that as well. And for me personally, I don't see an ethical issue per se if you're having animal products once in a blue moon. And I'm talking extreme moderation here, like a handful of chicken thrown into your noodles, you know? Or you go to a buffet, you have 5 plates. Maybe you have just a handful of animal products in every dish, you know?
Is it me, or is this dude just riding a fence? He wants to dick ride the vegan movement and, get the approval of those people. But at the same time, he doesn't want to alienate, the omnivorous folk. And he wants to be able to, still get that animal protein and not feel about it. Oh.
Or you have a cake, and they happen to use eggs and milk to make the cake. Whatever. You shouldn't go crazy over that, especially if you're with someone that you really care about, or you're with some close friends. Like, I have some childhood friends I've known for over 15 years. They're very, very important to me. They're like family, right? And whenever I go to their house, right, they make food and they offer it to me. And it's Italian cuisine.
I have a wife. She's very important to me, and she raises animals and prepares meat for me. So it's very important for us to eat meat every day. 2, sometimes 3 times a day. Animal products, right? Well, I guess eating meat every day is completely fine as far as this guy's fucked up ethical system.
And it's really good stuff, and I enjoy eating their food. And I'm not going to show up there with a Tupperware of tofu. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat what they have. Of course, I'm not going to have a huge amount of it if there's animal products, but I'm still going to eat it. Yeah, I'm still going to eat it, and I shouldn't feel guilty for doing that. I shouldn't feel like a bad person, especially when I'm doing great things in other walks of life.
Oh god, the cognitive dissonance in this video is just thick.
I'm helping thousands of people every single day. My watch time on this channel is 11.
He's helping thousands of people every single day? How are you helping? By pushing a nutrient, and this is science by the way, a nutrient deficient diet on the populace. How are you helping them? Clown?
Years every day. I'm helping a lot of people reach their goals.
Stroke your own cock a little bit more. It's kind of fucking disgusting. Thus, unethical.
And I'm spreading a positive message. I spread the plant-based lifestyle, and I consume clean foods 100% of the time. I don't have any junk food. I don't abuse anyone. I don't mistreat anybody. I got nothing but love, right? So a guy like me shouldn't feel bad for having a little bit of honey on some nuts. I shouldn't feel bad about that. I don't think that makes me a bad person, okay? Or having a steak once a year. I had a subscriber, he's like, hey, I'm vegan, but once a year I have a steak. Should I start blasting the guy, saying he's a bad person? No, not in my eyes, no, okay? And that's why I don't want to label myself as a vegan, all right? Technically I am, if we talk about what I do diet-wise, but I'm a bit more flexible than that. I'm literally about 99%. We can say 99%. And also, I use animal products that's not related to food, right?
I don't think this guy has gotten the latest memo on veganism and what that actually means.
So I own a leather jacket. I've had it for years. I'm not going to throw it out, Or I have a boar bristle brush for my beard. It's one of the best things you could do for your beard. So I use that,
Gay.
Certain clothing, when you buy it, they use animal products to make it. I'm not going to buy vegan clothes, which is going to cost me like twice or triple the price, just for a basic little thing. I'm just going to buy what I see.
Twice or triple the price, right? Because it's good for the environment.
And I'm not going to feel bad about that. And again, I agree, too, when we talk about the fur industry, it's some horrible shit. I've seen, just watch some documentaries, you're going to see it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant at all, but...
No thanks.
Again, I'm not going to be so obsessive. I'm not going to restrict my life like that, man.
That is the extent of quote-unquote research that he did, right? He watched some documentaries. Okay.
So, I'm going to be as positive as I can be. I'm going to try to reduce the suffering and death of these animals. I don't want to consume their stuff at all, but I'm not going to be an elitist.
He is an elitist. He just sets his own standards for what's okay and what's not, right? His threshold is not quite as high as a true vegan's threshold, but you're still a fucking elitist. It's just that the group that which you belong to is, a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger, but still less than 1% of the global population. You're still a fucking elitist, all right?
So although technically, you can say I classify as a vegan. I don't like to use that label. I just don't want to use it. And also, on one final point, I hear some guys saying that meat is not the problem. It's the fact that we raise them in improper ways with the hormone injections and the bad food and all that. Okay. Even if we did consume properly fed food, okay, like Old McDonald had a farm or whatever, I still think it would be problematic to have these animal products. I think biologically, okay, having large amounts of meat is not good for your health.
How so? What's the mechanism? This biological mechanism. What is it? I think biologically, I saw a documentary, so, Really?
I don't believe it's good for you. I think your diet should primarily consist of fruits and vegetables.
Fuck you, retard. Mud butt.
Fruits, vegetables, nuts, that's your base, okay? And I think that's what's going to bring about true health. And in my opinion, even if we're talking about clean meats, it shouldn't be more than twice a week. We should be talking about moderation.
Why? Why should we? Why? What's what compels us to do these things? There's like zero justification for his beliefs. It's just, I believe this to be true, so it's true for you as well, because I say so. And science and documentaries. And
at every single point. Always moderation when discussing meat consumption, all right? And because the fish, too, completely polluted, I don't support...
Do you think there's no pollution where your lettuce or your fruits or your nuts grow? Really? You think they just are grown in a bubble somewhere? In a air-conditioned space with air filters that remove all the pollution from the environment? Really? Do these people actually stop and think before they speak? Pollution? This fucking clown lives in the city. You think there's any pollution there? Give me a break.
That and the milk, even if you're consuming good milk, I mean, it's still very mucus forming, and a lot of guys are lactose intolerant, and it's going to cause problems in their bodies. So even if we have the cleanest animal products available, I still think that finding a plant-based substitute would be superior for health.
Substitute. Now some of you think back to your high school days, or whatever the hell it's called where you're from, where your teacher got sick, yeah? And you had the substitute show up. Didn't you just love those days? Because the substitute wasn't worth shit, right? Half the time, at least that's my experience, wasn't even trained in the discipline that they were supposed to be teaching you, right? They basically just showed up, did the roll call, and, you know, gave you an assignment to basically do on your own. I can't remember a single goddamn time where a substitute was actually of better quality than the real thing, right? After all, it's just a substitute.
So that's my stance on that. But I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to a guy who hunts his own meat and chooses to eat it. I'm not opposed to that. So that is my overall stance on veganism. I really hope that vegans can listen to my message with an objective mind and not be angered at me, because I do respect what you guys are doing. I support your message on the ethical side.
So he wants vegans to accept him and be objective. Wow, he's pushing a subjective moral standard. He expects you to be objective. He probably doesn't even know what objective means, to be honest with you. But, yeah. I mean, the guy spends his fucking life, right? His entire fucking life picking shit up and putting it down. Picking shit up, putting it down. He lifts it up and then he puts it down again. And he just does that over and over and over and over again, right? That's a great activity to, exercise your brain, isn't it? That's how you get them smarts, ain't it? Fucking meathead. Vegan meathead. I've seen one too many, I swear to God.
Things on the health side of things. I completely agree, and I've never been biased. I've seen your documentaries, I've subscribed to your channels, I've read your books, I've bought your books, and I've concluded what I just said in this video. These are my conclusions. You have the right to disagree, that's perfectly fine.
He's never been biased. So he completely rejects this reality of a lot of people. Like the aforementioned Sardinians, hate to be going back to them, but it's a good example. Like all the people out there who went vegan, ruined their health, and meat brought them back to life. Or people who just ate meat, if only for a little bit, and cut out all the vegan foods and improved their health that way, right? Completely ignorant of that, completely biased against that sort of lifestyle or those foods, right? This guy's never been biased. Up until this video, I guess.
But understand that I don't have any hate, and I don't want to debate any vegans because I agree with your perspective. If we have a debate, it's going to be me saying, yeah, I agree. Because I do agree, and I think they're correct. But I don't like the elitism that exists, and I don't like the extremity of restricting yourself in every walk of life.
No, you just like your extremity. You just draw the line in a slightly different place. And you think that that's right because of the subjective objectivity of things and shit. Okay.
I reject that. I don't think you should feel bad for it morally, and I don't think from a health perspective it's going to kill you. So yes, although I'm pretty much 100% plant-based at home, I don't want to use the term vegan because my beliefs do differ a little bit. But again, I do respect what you guys do.
Well, like I said, if you straddle the fence, enough idiots out there will believe that you're unbiased and fair and all that other fucking nonsense when you haven't said a single logical thing in this entire goddamn video. And that's my response to it. Sorry it took so long, but, I got a big fucking mouth, I guess. It is what it is. Anyway, the challenge has been issued to Destiny's Alpha, whatever, or anybody else who thinks they're unbiased and fair and all that other fucking nonsense. Hit me up, yeah? Thanks for watching.